Imagine for a moment a time without days or nights, without stars or skies. Picture a darkness so gentle and deep that it wasn't frightening at all, but strangely comforting, endlessly calm. A silence that held infinite possibilities. This was chaos, not disorder or confusion, but simply the great nothing, waiting patiently to become something. And then, quietly, mysteriously, it happened. From this gentle darkness, she awoke. Gaia, the first heartbeat, the first breath of the universe. Her awakening rippled softly through the void, like a whispered lullaby across eternity. Tonight, let me tell you a story older than the stars, softer than dreams, the myth of how everything began, of how the quiet dark gave birth to life, and how a mother's gentle breath shaped all we know. Close your eyes, slow your breathing, and allow yourself to drift into the cradle of the cosmos. Long before the world took shape, before the whispers of wind, the glow of stars, or the warmth of sunlight, there was only stillness. Not a silence made of fear or emptiness, but a vast, gentle pause, as if the universe were holding its breath, waiting. This stillness had a name. The Greeks called it chaos, not noise, not madness, but the kind of silence that cradles the unknown, a wide and boundless space where all things existed, but only in potential. From chaos, slowly and without sound, Gaia emerged, the earth herself, not formed by hands, but rising from the dark like the memory of a dream too ancient to forget. She did not speak, but her presence was a voice. Her surface was not stone or soil, but the feeling of being grounded in a world not yet imagined. Soon, others followed. Tartarus, the deep abyss beneath all things. A shadow darker than any night. Nyx, the night itself, velvet and infinite. Erebus, the gloom that lives between light and shadow. Eros, the gentle force of attraction. Not passion, but the magnetic breath that draws things together. They did not walk or speak. They simply existed, like the first colors before light, like the first heartbeat without a body to hold it. The stillness was no longer alone, and so the first moment of the world was not loud or sudden. It was soft, patient, almost tender. It was the beginning of becoming. Gaia did not arrive like a goddess in golden armor. She did not descend. She rose. From the center of chaos, she unfurled, vast, steady, and full of presence. She was the earth, yes, but not only soil and stone. She was foundation, memory, the quiet will to hold all things. There was no sky yet, no wind, only Gaia resting in herself, like a breath that had not yet exhaled. But Gaia was not content to simply be. She longed to create, not from loneliness, but from the deep, ancient rhythm of becoming. And so she gave form to herself. She shaped great mountains that reached toward a sky not yet born. She poured vast oceans that reflected no light. She stretched her body wide, wrapping the void in calmness and curves. And still, she longed for more. Gaia imagined the heavens, a presence to balance her weight, a companion to cover and embrace her. And so, from her longing, Uranus came forth. The sky. He was not born of war, but of harmony. A dome of shimmering stars, a breath that hovered just above her skin. And when Uranus stretched across Gaia's vastness, something sparked. Not fire, but creation. Together, without speaking, they formed the first true bond. A union not of flesh, but of force, of earth and sky, ground and dream. From that sacred joining, the world would soon begin to take shape. But even in this early peace, a seed of tension began to stir beneath Gaia's surface. Uranus did not fall from above, for above did not yet exist. He was not summoned. He was imagined, Born from Gaia's quiet yearning, he stretched across her vast body, like a blanket of stars not yet lit. Uranus was the sky, but also more. He was vision, possibility, limitlessness. Where Gaia was grounding, Uranus was expansion. He hovered just above her, so close their edges kissed, so vast they seemed infinite together. And from their union, from this silent cosmic closeness, something new began to stir. They did not speak, but they created. In their joining, they birthed the Titans, 12 ancient forces, each one vast and strange and powerful. Oceanus, the endless river encircling all things. Hyperion, the light that would one day become the sun. Theia, brilliance itself. Cronus, time with a sickle smile, and many more. But the Titans were not alone. Gaia and Uranus also gave life to other children, creatures raw and wild. The Cyclops, with a single blazing eye, and the Hecatonchires, with 100 arms and 50 heads. They were powerful, unpredictable, unfamiliar even to their creators, and Uranus, though vast and starless, began to feel something new. Fear. Fear of what had been born. Fear of what could grow stronger than himself. So he made a choice, one that would echo through eternity. He buried them. One by one, the Cyclops and the Hecatonchires were forced deep into Gaia's body, hidden away from the sky. And Gaia, who had created from love, was now forced to hold pain. Her children cried from within her. And though the world above seemed calm, a storm was beginning to form just beneath the surface. Beneath the quiet rhythm of creation, a fracture had formed. Gaia, once only a cradle of life, now held pain deep within her. A pain that pulsed from the cries of her imprisoned children. They did not belong in the darkness. They were not meant to be buried. But Uranus, the vast sky, feared their power more than he loved their light. Each night, he descended upon Gaia, covering her in silence, pressing the weight of stars against her skin, not in affection, but in control. And Gaia, though ancient and wide, began to feel trapped in her own creation. She had birthed the sky and the children beneath it, but now she was a cage. So she made a plan, not out of anger, but of balance, not of vengeance, but of restoration. She reached out to her Titan sons, strong, vast, and rising. "Who among you," she asked, "will help me bring change?" Only one stepped forward, Cronus, youngest of the Titans, sharp of mind, quiet of spirit, ambitious of heart. Gaia shaped for him a sickle, forged from the hardest element she could summon, a blade not to kill, but to cut. Cronus waited, and when Uranus came again, unaware, unafraid, Cronus reached from the earth and struck. The sky was torn, the stars shuddered. From Uranus's body fell blood, deep, rich, eternal. It dripped into Gaia, and from it new beings emerged. The Furies, born of wrath and justice, the giants, towering and wild. And from the sea foam where the sky met the waves, a figure would slowly begin to form. But that is another story. Uranus, broken and silent, retreated. The sky still stretched above, but it no longer ruled. And Gaia, wounded yet unbound, exhaled. For the first time, the earth was free to breathe again. Cronus stood beneath a torn sky, his sickle still dripping with the weight of destiny. He had done what none before him dared. He had struck the heavens. He had changed the order of things. The other Titans gathered, silent. Not in mourning, but in awe. Gaia did not weep. She did not cheer. She simply listened as the world settled into a new rhythm. With Uranus gone, Cronus became king. Not of thrones and palaces, but of time itself. He ruled over the age that followed, a golden era where the earth bloomed and the Titans shaped mountains, rivers, and skies. But deep within Cronus, a shadow grew. For before Uranus vanished, he spoke one final prophecy, a whisper carved into the wind. One day, your child will rise against you, just as you rose against me. Cronus laughed then, but the words stayed, and when the first of his children were born, he remembered them. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, each one radiant and powerful. And one by one, he swallowed them whole, not with cruelty, but with fear. He believed that by consuming them, he could silence fate, freeze time, stop the cycle. He did not kill them. He held them within him, trapped in the stillness he hoped would last forever. But fate, like the cosmos, does not stop. It only circles back, and far away, another child was about to be born. One who would not be swallowed. One whose breath would reshape the heavens once again. With Uranus gone, and Cronus crowned in silence, the age of the Titans began. It was a time of stillness, but not peace. Cronus ruled with caution, wearing the crown of time like a weight around his throat. The world beneath him grew. Forests, mountains, creatures, clouds. But his eyes were always searching the horizon, waiting for the prophecy to stir. He had swallowed his children, 5 radiant beings, and believed the danger was gone. But fate, subtle and patient, was not finished. Rhea, sister and queen, gave birth again, this time to a 6th child. She had watched 5 newborns vanish down her husband's throat, swallowed by fear. But this time she hesitated. She looked at the child in her arms, small, warm, quiet, and new. He could not be given to the dark, so she wrapped a stone in cloth, soft and weighted, and placed it in Cronus's hands. He swallowed it without question. The true child, Zeus, was carried far away. Hidden in a cave, cradled by nymphs, fed on honey and starlight, he grew, not in shadow, but in silence, not with fear, but with purpose. And while Cronus ruled the skies, believing time itself bowed to him, a boy with thunder in his bones was waiting to rise. The golden age shone on the surface, but deep beneath it, change was coiled. Ready. In the shadows of the golden age, a mother's quiet defiance kept the world turning. Rhea, titaness of flow and fertility, had long endured her husband's fear, watching child after child disappear into Cronus's hunger. She did not scream, she did not strike, but in the stillness of her 6th labor, something shifted. When Zeus was born, the sky did not darken, the earth did not shake. But Rhea felt the change. In his breath, in his gaze, there was something bright, something that refused to be devoured. She wrapped him in soft cloth, kissed his forehead, and whispered a lullaby older than language. Then, with trembling hands, she placed a stone in his place. Cronus, tired of doubt, swallowed it whole, never sensing the deception. And so, Zeus was hidden. Taken to a distant cave on the island of Crete, he was raised in secret. His cries were masked by the beating of drums, his steps guarded by the nymphs who fed him, rocked him, told him stories of stars and storms. He drank milk from the goat Amalthea and played beneath the watchful eyes of forest spirits. Each day, he grew stronger, not just in body, but in will. He watched the skies, learned the shape of storms, the taste of wind, the rhythm of silence. And deep within him, he carried a knowing that time, no matter how tightly it grips, always moves forward. Zeus was not raised for revenge. He was raised for restoration. A new order was coming, one that would echo through history. But for now, the boy who would one day hold thunder slept in peace, wrapped in the quiet hope of a mother who refused to surrender. Time passed, as it always does. Quietly at first, then all at once. Zeus had grown, no longer a hidden child, but a force forming on the edge of myth. He returned not in fury, but in resolve. Not with chaos, but with clarity. The prophecy had not faded. It had waited, patient and precise. With the help of Metis, the goddess of wisdom, Zeus tricked Cronus into drinking a potion laced with memory, and one by one, his siblings emerged. Not as infants, but radiant and ready. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon. Each one stepped from darkness into light, each one claiming their place in the coming storm. And then, the war began. Not a war of men, but of gods and titans echoing across the cosmos. 10 years the battle roared, not in noise, but in weight. Mountains crumbled, oceans surged, time twisted. Zeus hurled thunderbolts so bright they split the sky in ribbons. Poseidon shook the seas, calling waves from forgotten depths. Hades opened the earth, summoning shadows older than names. The Titans stood tall, unshaken, ancient, proud. But Gaia, once more watching, offered her strength to the sons who had not failed her. From the pit where her buried children wept, she freed them. The Cyclopes, the Hecatonciers, beings of fire and storm and fury. They fought beside the gods, turning the tide of fate, and when the final blow was struck, it was not loud, but final. The Titans fell, one by one, and were cast into Tartarus, the pit from which they would not return. The war ended, but the world had changed. The sky was no longer afraid, the earth no longer bound. And Zeus, the sun once hidden in a cave, stood at the center of a new beginning. Time passed, as it always does. Quietly at first, then all at once. Zeus had grown, no longer a hidden child, but a force forming on the edge of myth. He returned not in fury, but in resolve. Not with chaos, but with clarity. The prophecy had not faded. It had waited, patient and precise. With the help of Metis, the goddess of wisdom, Zeus tricked Cronus into drinking a potion laced with memory, and one by one, his siblings emerged. Not as infants, but radiant and ready. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon. Each one stepped from darkness into light, each one claiming their place in the coming storm. And then, the war began. Not a war of men, but of gods and titans echoing across the cosmos. 10 years the battle roared, not in noise, but in weight. Mountains crumbled, oceans surged, time twisted. Zeus hurled thunderbolts so bright they split the sky in ribbons. Poseidon shook the seas, calling waves from forgotten depths. Hades opened the earth, summoning shadows older than names. The Titans stood tall, unshaken, ancient, proud. But Gaia, once more watching, offered her strength to the sons who had not failed her. From the pit where her buried children wept, she freed them. The Cyclopes, the Hecatonciers, beings of fire and storm and fury. They fought beside the gods, turning the tide of fate, and when the final blow was struck, it was not loud, but final. The Titans fell, one by one, and were cast into Tartarus, the pit from which they would not return. The war ended, but the world had changed. The sky was no longer afraid, the earth no longer bound. And Zeus, the sun once hidden in a cave, stood at the center of a new beginning. When the dust settled, the world was no longer the same. The war had ended, but it left behind more than silence. It carved a new rhythm into existence, a steady pulse where once there had only been breathless dark. Zeus now stood not just as victor, but as order. Not a tyrant, but a keeper of balance. He and his siblings rose to Mount Olympus, a peak above all peaks, a throne set not in gold, but in the thin, trembling air between sky and thought. From there, they shaped the world. Zeus governed the skies and storms, Poseidon ruled the seas, Hades watched over the realm of shadows. Hera tended marriage, Demeter gave life to the fields, and Hestia guarded the flame within every home. Together, they wove the world into something steady, a cosmos. But even in this order, traces of chaos remained, in the stillness between waves, in the hush before thunder, in the curve of a mother's hands protecting a future not yet born. Chaos had not been destroyed. It had been transformed. The lullaby of the beginning now lived inside the world itself, in the stories whispered across time, in the stars that flicker like the heartbeat of something ancient, still breathing softly beneath it all. And so, what began as silence ends as memory. Not with noise, but with knowing. Tonight, as you drift into sleep, let the echoes of Gaia and her children wrap around you. Let the rhythm of the cosmos hold you like the earth once held the sky. The gods are quiet now, but they're still watching, still waiting, still whispering. Now the world sleeps again. The sky no longer trembles. The earth has exhaled, and in that long, quiet breath, there is still something alive. You may not see them now, the gods, the titans, the shapes that once roared across the stars, but they are not gone. They have simply grown quiet, not silent, just deeper. They live in the rhythm beneath all things, in the slow turning of the moon, in the hush between waves, in the flicker of flame when the wind is still. The stories, too, haven't ended. They do not age. They do not disappear. They sleep, like you are meant to sleep now, gently, without effort, cradled in the arms of myth. Because myth is not noise, it's not chaos. It is what remains after the storm has passed. It is the echo after the voice, the warmth in the air after a name is spoken. It's the part of you that remembers before you were taught to forget. So when your body becomes still, when your breath slows, when the dark folds around you like velvet, you may feel it, the quiet presence of something ancient, not watching, but waiting. And if you listen, not with ears, but with something older, you might hear them speak, not in words, but in feeling, in the way the stars align just so, in the way your chest rises before a dream, in the weightless drift between thought and sleep. They are there, always, because myth does not end. It only waits to be remembered. And now, you remember? So close your eyes. There is nothing more to know tonight, nothing more to hold. The story has done its part. Let Gaia's breath carry you, soft as nightfall. Let the gods return to their quiet. Let time fold inward, and let yourself fall. Not into sleep, but into the memory of the beginning. You are safe. You are still. You are starlight, resting in the space before the next story begins.